We're gonna have hate. We're gonna have haters no matter what. All right, good people. We are going live. Well, some people like y'all been live. We're going live today, y'all. I am Dr. Reginald Woods with the Raw Approach, and I have with me a very special guest today. Some of y'all may know him. He's a very famous man, uh, but he's a humble soul. I have Mr. Antonio Bratcher. I'm gonna have him introduce himself, and y'all, we're gonna be the next duo around here. So y'all get yourself ready, cause it's coming.
All right, I guess I'm gonna give a little brief introduction. I'm Antonio Bratcher, like Dr. Reginald Woods said. I got to get used to that, Dr. Reginald Woods, Dr. Chop. And man, basically, I'm I guess, state director of residential services for a company that I oversee several residential facilities throughout the state of Tennessee, boys, girls, you name it, that's in custody and that receive treatment services throughout the state. So I just oversee several programs, the day-to-day operations, you name it, from the front to the back of the store. I oversee it all. So definitely always busy. Been doing it for several years. Started on the floor in programs, and probably done every position there is to be done in a residential program. So I come with a lot of experience when it comes to it.
That's what's up. I invite Mr. Bratcher here. Y'all, Bratcher and I, we worked together at one facility, and he got me kicked out. Um, Not just joking, just joking. And then we was like Batman and Robin at the detention center. If you
Yeah.
seen one, you seen those. You seen the other one. And when I tell you that, there was some good days, but there were more bad days there than it was good days. But no matter what, we made the best of it.
Yeah.
In case anybody know, we were going through a lot of chaos when COVID happened.
Yeah.
And another thing to bring out, we all know that we all go through situations when uh, it's, let's go ahead and say it. When you're dealing with organizations, organizational leaders make some decisions that sometimes is not best for the employees and even upper management. But sometimes you just dealt the cards and you just got to deal with it. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's what makes a good leader. How do you deal with the, as you can say, the crap that you are dealt with, and make it better for everybody else? And so now I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Bratcher. If he have any questions or concerns, or anything that he want to address before we go all the way live.
I, I don't, man. I actually was started off by, when you say bad days, I wouldn't even say that, man. I definitely had some tough days and rough days, man. We dealt and again, I hadn't worked in any other states, but I'm familiar with different states. I would say that detention center is probably one of the toughest programs in the country. Given the population, the politics, and the things that come with it. So I wouldn't even say bad days, just tough days. But going back to, like you said, about leadership, man, like when you look at it, man, we had a lot of happy kids, healthy kids, and we had a lot of happy, healthy staff. We didn't turn over a lot of staff. We didn't terminate a lot of staff. We didn't have to lay people off, things of the nature. So yeah, definitely tough, rough days, but not bad. But no, I don't have any questions, concerns. You know how we do Woods, man. I'm just here for the conversation and just want to have an organic, natural conversation.
All right. Well, let's go and dive in on one of the things that a lot of people tune in with us today is employee engagement. There are so many things that we can do to keep employees engaged. And I know my people look at my hands are not ashy. It's only my ankles.
No comment.
Hey, hey, hey! I know you told me to make sure I get a lotion in the spring, but but nevertheless, employee engagement is one of the biggest things that I did my research on. Anybody don't know, I did my research on dealing with the turnover rates as it family service workers, and that deals not only with case manager with DCS, It deals with BHAs, with behavior health associates, juvenile detention officers. It was a gamut of occupations that covered, and it focused pretty much in the Tennessee area. But it really gave some very interesting findings dealing with employee engagement, and a lot of things that one of the first things I heard from Mr. Bratcher is when he came to me, he said, "Woods, you know, people don't work for people. I mean, for companies, people work for people." And I was like, "Okay, that's a good one." And from that, started looking at, you know what? When these people leave, they ain't gonna say that the company did them bad. They gonna say Mr. Woods did them bad,
Mm-hmm.
or blah blah blah. And we had some situations like that. I mean, you get some things where people gonna get rid of themselves and they put themselves in situations. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do in order to support your people. If your people feel supported, they will go to bat for you and whoever that they supposed to be protecting, because some of the people that put in the hours in that place, and it was because we did what we had to do to make that place an enjoyable one while at work. And people like me, they put in some hours there. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. What's your idea of employee engagement?
Well, as I always say that, yeah, people work for people. I mean, the company is just a brand, and I always compare work to sports. I always go back to whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever your preference is. But I mean, your company is no different than that logo that's on your jersey, and those companies can, they can provide uniforms, they can provide facilities, they can provide resources, you name it. But at the end of the day, man, people work for people. Like, so when you talk about, sports, man, people, they move for the coach, they move for the personnel, not necessarily the company. So when it comes to employee engagement, when you say people work for people, no matter what your field is, you got to get to know your people. You got to get to know your people, and that's a real tough one, Woods, because when you talk about boundaries and you talk about being professional and things of that nature, it can be very, gray, but you got to have the boundaries. You got to be professional, but you also got to get to know your people for who they are. And when people know that you believe in them as a person, the same way that I say people work for people, it's the same thing, that they can tell when you got their best interest, not just the position best interest. You know what I'm saying? And it's a combination. Of course, I want to get the most and the best out of their position, but I also want that person that's in a position to be the best that they can be too. And I think that's the primary start of employee engagement. When people know that you believe in them, they'll run through a wall for you.
Yeah, I like that. You always use the comparison of the sports team, and I always use the comparison of relationships. Look, you
I
already
know.
start.
No, listen. Now I'm shaking my head because of the relationships. You are right. I'm laughing about the sports, but because I can't hoop a lick. But I play sports for fun. But I'm not an athlete. But I always, yeah, use sports as a reference, and relationships. You're right. But it's the same. It's really the same thing in one.
It's the same thing. I tell you,
Hmm.
man, you put just as much time in at the workplace than you do in your relationship,
Yep. Yep.
and
More.
people
Actually, more.
always and more.
Hmm.
And I come to a situation where people be like, "Mr. Woods, I'm dealing with this right here at work, blase, blase, blase," and I'd be like, "Okay, I understand what you're saying, but now that we got that, let's identify what it is, okay?" And then they find the most difficult. It's like it's difficult. They can't think outside that box. And I said, "Okay, well, let's slow this down and let's think of it like this." And the reason I use relationships because everybody in the have one, some shape, form, or fashion.
Hmm.
And I said, if you was in a relationship, how would you handle this relationship? And then they would go and they start talking. They come up with the plans and everything, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I said, now, flip it.
Hmm.
And they be like, oh man, I never looked at it like that. It's the same.
It's the
Majority of
same.
the time, it's the exact same. You got to come up with a strategy. You got to come up with, I mean, what that plan is going to look like, and you got to implement it. If that means
Yeah.
that you're trying to become the best employee possible, you got to put stuff together to be that employee. If you're trying to move and make, to be promoted, you got to find a plan. Move
Yeah.
that plan, work that plan, and watch as you identify these steps, they become successful.
Yep.
Now, I was explaining with someone about employee engagement. You want to tell them about that time that you took our our little room that we had where we had our meetings, and how you changed that and made it a very inviting place for people to take a break, because everybody was trying to leave all
Yep, yep. But again, Woods, man, you said it, man. When you're at work, you are at work more than you are at home. You know what I'm saying? Because think about this: when you talk about time, when you subtract now to average people, people like us don't sleep, but to average
the time.
people who actually sleep, 6 to 8 hours a day, when you remove those 6 to 8 hours, man, you definitely are at work way more than you are at home or at relatives' house and things of that nature, whatever. And so that's one of the things about employee engagement, man. You gotta have a space where people feel comfortable in. That's inviting. That's where again it goes back to what you used to do for a living. You still kind of do, but dealing with the kids, man, or even with dealing with adults, man. Like not having that
Yeah.
environment that people want to be in, like that's tough because you think when people get out their car, you know what I mean. They should get out the car and want to walk in the building, not walk in the building like, I'm here again, whatever. And so again, going back to like you said, that one little small area, man. And I know like a lot of times, you're limited when you talk about the space that you have, monies. A lot of companies don't spend a whole lot of money on, being able to make a break room state of the art. But you got to be creative though, like simple things. If you think about that, man, we did a couple of hot dog makers, uh, made spruced up the clock, put some better furniture in there. Something as simple as I remember when the new staff used to come in and they used to have to get on the computer and do the assessments, whatever the on hiring assessments. And I looked at that outdated computer that we had, right? Now check this out. Now think about this, Woods. Think about this. The computer was still outdated. All we did was change the monitor. We just
Change the money.
we put a, we put an upgraded flat screen monitor
Curve
on
money.
the same
That was the curve money.
the curve monitor on the
Yeah, it
same
was the curve money.
and people they felt more prideful. They felt like as opposed to looking at some 1986 big back TV, whatever, something as small as that, you know what I'm saying. And that environment, it is critical, man. Like when you come into an environment, it's just like again like your home. You want your home to be comfortable, and it's no different than work. People want to feel comfortable and they want to be in an environment that they can be proud of. You know what I'm saying? I always, was I dive into that a little bit later, but I always talk about that broken window theory, man. Like
No,
when people,
I wanted you to go there because I had that written down when you
okay,
discussed that. And I'm going to take it on another level as well.
okay, yeah, we'll get into that. But like again,
Okay.
taking care of your environment, and when people are in an environment that they can feel proud of, they'll take care of it. They will.
Yeah, and there's a reason I want to talk about that because
Okay.
it talks. We'll get into it, but we're gonna move on because I want to talk about how the kids took care of the environment, which was shocking. But we're gonna come back to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
But I want to also add to the employee engagement piece, which is simple stuff. Like I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't care about coffee. But when we put in place the coffee machine, the Keurig, I don't know nothing about no Keurig machine. But for the staff, man, it was like, hey, how much we got to pay for this? That's yours. It's free.
That's yours. Yeah. Yeah.
For real. And then they were like, okay. Then we start getting the creamer, the sugar, and all
Yeah.
that for them. They were like, we ain't got no, that's y'all's dog. Hey, we just glad you coming to work.
Yeah.
There's small stuff like that. Um, and what I was gonna say with that is a lot of time in dealing with this industry, uh, you have to do things to support the staff in ways that you will want to be supported. And then not only that, do it in ways that they want to be supported.
Yeah.
I feel that if a staff, and this has been proven, so it's not an opinion, if staff believe and feel that they are worthy of that organization, they will come to work even when they don't want to work or
Hmm.
tired or whatever. They're going to come because they feel this is a part of me.
They
And
do.
research shows that if a person feels worthy of the organization, and also identify if my supervisor actually listens to me, man, we said I think it was 75%. 75% of the staff that was in the research identified they believed that they supervisor was there for them, which to me was kind of shocking
Uh-huh.
because on the flip side, you have some other things, but we're going to talk about on down the road and other casts and stuff. But in that point, a lot of people really felt in the industry felt supported because I, they believed that their leaders was somebody that actually knew what they was doing.
Uh-huh.
And compared to some, as I call it leadership by default. Compared to someone who you had an organization, people may not like that organization. Your good employees, the one that understand they can make moves, be like, man, the concept for this organization no good, so they leave.
Yeah.
So after all your qualified people that has the ideals leave, now you left with a staff that probably would never been promoted, but they get promoted because hey, they've been here 10 years. We need somebody in the position. I call that
Mhm.
leadership by default. What is your perspective on that?
Man, unfortunately, was that happens across the board, with the same scenario that you just described. Also, even when it's people that's coming externally, that's applying externally to come to the programs, we end up putting people in positions by default just because the salary wasn't, you know, good enough for somebody that actually was qualified. We just didn't have the negotiation power to get the person that we wanted, and we always, when I say always, more than not, put people in leadership positions that really wasn't our primary choice for real. We went with the best person that we had at that point in time, whether it was an internal promotion or an external person that just was willing to stay within that salary range that your company allowed you to deal with. And that's a big part of the problem, man. We have a large majority of our leaders in leadership positions that are not qualified. That's one, and I want to be clear. That doesn't mean that they don't need to be in a position just because you ain't qualified, because you got to start from somewhere, right?
That's
But
something.
we don't give them the training, the resources, and the teaching, and all the things that come with it to build them up to actually get them to where they need to be at. So you do have a lot of organizations that have people in leadership roles that are not leaders.
And someone asked me, this is the biggest conversation, so we don't have to spend much time. Do you believe that leaders are born or they made?
Both, a combination. Some things are just in you, man. Again, it goes back to sports. It goes back to sports. You got some
Right.
people who are just natural athletes. You give
Like
them a,
that dude with Alabama, the 17-year-old.
say it again.
The 17-year-old from Alabama, University of Alabama, that made that catch. He made them two dudes from Georgia look terrible.
Natural athletes, though, right? You know what I'm saying? But then you got some people that actually just, again, came up through the right type of training. They had the right resources. They had the right supervisor, the right person to motivate them and whatever, and then they was able to be developed. You know what I'm saying? So you got to come, but it's a combination. It's a combination. I have seen some people that actually, given the right resources and the right training and teaching, have become leaders, and they just didn't have that natural. I was born with this leadership type skills. The difference is the people that's born with it, they can do it off the cuff. They can,
Yeah,
yeah, yes, the trainings, the books, and the manuals are important, but we already know it's in us, and that book that we're reading just kind of helped solidify what we already knew, or it gave us something extra. Like, okay, I already thought that, but that person just confirmed that I knew what I was talking about. And you got some people who actually need to read that book front to back. But I think it goes both ways. You can develop leaders, and sometimes it's just within you. Now, depending on the field that we're talking about, I think that's what determines which one is more important. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes leadership can just be in you, but if you're in the wrong field, that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful.
and I agree with that. That I think that takes me to where I want to go with organizational leadership. Organizational leadership puts us in a situation. where you look at the big picture and the small picture at the same time, as are the leaders of an organization. Okay. Now, in dealing with the leaders of an organization, you have to identify decisions that
Mm-hmm.
has to be made to be, with all companies, everything is about the finances, the growth, and everything like that. What are we putting together to benefit? Because you got to benefit the consumers. The consumers is not only the people that's purchasing. The consumers is your staff. The consumer is your advisory board. Your consumer is the potential. What's the word I like to see? Advertisement.
Yeah.
Advertisement in today's time, is all about word of mouth. If you don't believe it's not, it's more than just talking about it. It's on the internet. It's on social media. It's word of
Yeah.
mouth. There's no official somebody spinning ads on it. And I like to tell people and share with them what may work good for McDonald's is not going to work great for Burger King.
Correct.
Those are two different mindsets.
Yeah.
What works great for Chick-fil-A, really have a great procedure and how they get people bought in. And I'm not a big Chick-fil-A fan, but every time I have gone, been the most courteous people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's in their program. And
Yeah.
just because it works well for Chick-fil-A, don't mean it's going to work well for any other chicken company.
Right.
So, in there, what do you identify? Let's go with behavior. A lot of kids, and as well as adults, is moving into the behavior health issues. So we're gonna kind of move it a little bit. What do you identify as important to support the behavior health staff in comparison to corrections?
All right. So, man, let's going back to that analogy that you gave about the Chick-fil-A and the McDonald's. I got another layer to that too. What works in McDonald's in West Tennessee is different than what works in East Tennessee. You see what I'm saying? So even you compare companies, but even with that one company, it depends on demographics too. You know what I'm saying? So kind of going back to what you said about the behavioral health thing. I think demographics matter. It depends on what area you are in. You know what I mean? Because I like I said earlier, I oversee several programs in Tennessee, and I'm telling you, in the middle programs, the things that I do to attract or engage the staff in the middle programs won't work in the East. I have to think outside the box and do something totally different because it's a different demographic. What works in the middle does not work in the East. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of the first steps is identifying, do you got the right people? A lot of times, Woods, man, people are just after, especially since post pandemic, man, people are just applying for jobs that they have no clue of what the job is. They by the time that they sit down with you, these people have applied for 30 some jobs. You know what I'm saying? So one is that, man, that initial. I had one of my directors, man, used to say this that hiring starts. I mean that whole engagement starts when you first make that first initial call with somebody. A lot of times this is about when we think when they hit our training class. That's when we start doing all that engagement. No, when you make that first initial email or call on, hey, I hear you interested in a position with so and so, blase blase. That's when the engagement started right there. That's when it started, man. And again, that's when you truly can identify or begin the process of identifying is this person truly a good candidate? Not and going back to, I'm gonna still offer you with the relationship. A relationship is two ways, man. It's not about do they want to be in a relationship with you, man. I mean, do you want to be in a relationship with them? It's about do they want to be in a relationship with you too as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, even though you interviewing them, man, really you should have an interview process where people are allowed to interview you for real. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's a relationship. And what if when you figure that piece out, that's the beginning of a relationship. I'm piggybacking off of you. Y'all see how to make the doctor happy, man. Just say his words, man. Now he think he's smart, man.
What do you see? No, but to holler at that right there. But that's real though. I mean, the interview process is two ways because I mean, I've been in interviews and I'm sitting there listening to them like, man, they just wasting my time.
Wasting time. Wasting
And you
time.
can tell, and you know, I'm kind of a little bit more confrontational, not in a negative way. I'm just a little bit more upfront. And when we are having, I've been in a situation that we don't have an interview as a couple questions, and after that, man, we're talking about something that's totally off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I just gently told the man, I said, hey, out of due respect, and I said, obviously the way this interview is going, you already have your candidate. You wasting my time, and I'm wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of looked at me like, hmm. And I just told him out of due respect. I said, you know, I ain't trying to tell you how to run your company, but be respectful of people's time. And if you're gonna take the time to give somebody an interview, go through the process like you really want that person there.
Yeah.
Don't let no one feel like, you know what I mean, he didn't want me, and you walk away that interview. I love when people say, man, I went to this place, I had an interview. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but man, it was a good interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That does something because at the end of the day, we talk about that reputation of that company.
Yeah.
And you can be able to say, well, I didn't get that job, but Mr. So-and-so who interviewed me, man, I really felt like I could work for that man.
Yeah.
Then they
Yeah.
might they might apply again. But when you wasting people's time, and people pick up on that.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
pick up on
I
that. Let me
going
ask you
back to
about this. Bro.
going back to that working for people was, man, I can tell you, man, I don't know the number, but I can tell you out of the many interviews I have done over my career that like I said, starting the beginning, I had several people that be like, man, I want to work for you. Yeah, it wasn't even about no disrespect to the company, but it wasn't about the company.
Mhm.
It was they felt something in that initial interview where they felt something from the person, and going back to people work for people.
And that's the very positive thing, man, because we got to stay encouraged. We got to keep people involved. And I tell people, when you get people in the company and you working for them, one of the things when I was with DCS, you know, and I was a team leader at the time, one of the things that I really liked doing was going out on the visits with my case managers. And they kind of looked like I was trying to catch them doing something wrong. And I told them, this is not an aha moment. I really want to see what it is that you're doing, who you're going to go see, and you know how you interact with your kids. And I
Yeah.
said, so you know, they got comfortable with it. Then I said, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. If I never went out on your home visit, school visits, or whatever visit courts with you or anything like that, and then when it's time for you a yearly evaluation, and what's the first thing you gonna say when you don't get the evaluation that you want?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
how you know you ain't never been there with me? You know what I'm saying? And it was so crazy. They got so comfortable to the point that I went out with them. They was like, "Hey, Mr. Wood, we got to go so so. You want to roll?" And I'm like, "Cool." But on the flip side, in an industry like that, especially going to go see kids, if you're not careful, the kids gonna believe they know that caseworker more than they know you,
Yeah.
and they're gonna protect that caseworker. Even that caseworker ain't seen them in 3 months. They're gonna protect that caseworker. So now you are in a liability because you are in a situation and you signing off on the stuff that they doing. And but I realized what I found in dealing with a lot of my workers, man, is that they felt so supported that either when it was time for promotion, they really didn't want their promotion. They wanted their promotion within the team. They didn't want to go to
Yeah.
another team.
Right.
And I tell them, now, this is where I'm gonna go with the sports analogy. I'm gonna pick back off you. I said sometimes, just like with football, you got to move to another team in order to get your recognition.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It ain't that you failing me. You making me look good is what you making yourself look good because you get promoted to do something better. And just like with football, when that contract is up and you ready for the next contract, sometimes you gotta go to another team
Yep.
and be.
Yep.
What's your thoughts as it comes with The same thing that we do with patients, youth, adults. We call them a behavior management program. One of the things that I found that was more rewarding is when we start doing behavior management programs with the staff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Simple stuff as Monday Munchie or
Yeah.
Munchie Monday. They love that. Simple, small stuff. What is other things such as the behavior, like we talked about that with the kids and we're dealing with staff? What are some other things that you think that is a good support for staff? And then I'm gonna give you two analogies and examples. Then I'm sure you're gonna come up with some more.
Man, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna start off with the easiest one, man. Recognition, man.
Yeah,
It was, you know this, man. The same staff that say, man, I don't care about that little certificate, or they told you was this, and they behave. Nah, that little certificate. I need some money. But the same staff that don't get recognized be the ones that be griping because you just didn't recognize them. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
right.
when you talk about behavior motivation, man, they call it behavior motivation for a reason. It's not just solely for kids. It's just not solely for people that's in bad situations. It's not solely for women. You know what I mean? It's for people. People have behavior. So I think any type of behavior motivation system that is needed when you talk about employees. It's so easy for me to talk about it because that's what we cut our teeth on dealing with kids is having behavior motivation systems, throughout programs. But you know what's so funny was, man, now that my kids are my daughter is about to be 6, my son about to be 12. So I got a elementary kid and now a middle school kid. Man, they got behavior motivation system throughout the school system, starting
Yes,
at Christian daycare on up to private school and public school. Behavior motivation systems are throughout the school system. And these are, kids that are not in trouble. So hell, in my household, I have to run a behavior management system. Now, did my parents have to do well with me? No, but the times are different now, and kids are sharper. They are, much more in tune with their feelings, and it's the same thing with our staff, man. I don't know, if this a whole post-COVID thing with people being more in tune with their mental health and
yes,
crises and things that are going on in the real world. But again, going back to that engagement part, man, your staff that you have are going through real life crises every day, man. I'm telling you, and this is just not the floor level, low level, lower level staff. You know what I mean? I'm coming out from management on up, man. You'll be shocked at the high percentage of people that are living check to check. Being short 6 hours on your check can cause somebody to lose their whole house. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
again, being engaged, knowing what people are dealing with on a personal level, and you expecting them to come to work and produce as if nothing is going on in their personal world. That's where that behavior motivation system come in because people need more to look forward to than just the check. That's so easy to say, man, you get paid every 2 weeks or you get paid every week and that should be enough. But it's really not enough. And I'm telling you, recognition is one of the simplest ways of making people feel appreciated. A simple certificate saying, employee of the month, staff of the week. Great. Even without a certificate, sometimes it was just a man. You did a good job, man. You just don't know how far that will go because people don't get told that enough.
Yeah. And in those situations, a lot of time, man, research shows. That's what I like about that. Research shows that yes, you take the people, you govern everybody together, same policy, same procedures, and you try to give them an understanding of what is expected. Realistically, we all realize that okay, even though I have this policy and this procedure, I have 85 steps. All 85 don't grab their concept the same.
No. All right.
So you have to learn. Okay, I have a group mindset with everybody, but also in order to move people where they got to go, we got to have some individual concepts. I call it employee individual plan
Yeah. Yeah.
or individual proof plan because there is some steps that need a little bit more
Yeah.
than you think. And I know for me, and you used to always say, "Woods, you think old." But
Yeah.
it was one of them situations that what's that? But the noticer.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It was one of them situations where you always think that people understand the task at hand. But when
Yeah.
you walk away and they start doing something else, and you're like, man, we just talked about this. And then
Yeah.
they were like, well, that's not how I took
That's not how I
it. And
took
that's
it.
why rephrasing, asking over and over before someone that then having them to, hey, what does this look like to you when you go put this into place? Is a very important piece. And right there is why I want why you had us to all read that book to notice.
Man, when you think about it, was the biggest takeaway. First of all, I want to be clear. I am not a reader, man. One of my good friends, constantly kept on asking, telling me about read this book. And then when he finally gave me a book that was thin, I said, okay, I can try that one. And it was
Right,
the Noticer. Noticer, and man, and that whole book, when you think about it, it's about perspective, man. It's about perspective. You know what I mean? That book, every chapter just gives you lesson after lesson after lesson on perspective. And what happens was is that we as leaders, again, we don't learn how to look at things from different perspectives. We want everybody to see it the way that we see it. But at the end of the day, like you said, I think you threw out there 85 employees. it it's yes, it's challenging for me to figure out how to learn the perspectives of all 85 of those staff, right? It is challenging, right? But I'm the one that want to get the results out of them. So it's in my best interest to take the time to learn their different perspectives, because if I'm sitting back waiting on them to learn my language, and I keep on wondering why every time I run this play or tell them to do this or tell them to do that, it's never done. That's the reason. And when you think about that book, The Noticer, man, it just gave you so many different ways on looking at other people's perspectives. And I'm telling you, that was eye opening for me when I realized that, going back to the relationships, man, being in a relationship, realizing that, hey, my wife, she speaks a different
right,
language from me. You know what I'm saying? I can what works for me and what makes me happy. Don't make her happy. Don't move her. You know what I'm saying? And you be wondering why this person is not happy or why they're not responsive, because you're doing things that you like. You're not doing things that they like. And it's no different going back to the relationships and work. It's no different in work. That's why a lot of people don't get the productivity out of their employees or their staff, is because they don't know what motivate them, because they don't see it from their perspective. You know what I'm saying? We say things, foolish things like, man, if I was getting all that overtime, I'd be, but that may not move that person. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
That may not move that person. But again, learning people's perspectives. If you remember, that book was one of the big things. I can't remember what chapter it was, when it talks about I think it's 4 different languages that people
The language.
speak. And going back on perspective, though, if you don't know the language of the person that you're talking to, and you wonder why they don't comprehend the things that you're putting out there, but it's going back to perspective. Perspective is everything. And I know, man, you done had many conversations about this where you scratching your head and like, man, I showed them, I drew it for them, I told them, I went and picked them up, I did this and all that. But at the end of the
Right.
day, it's not really about the truth versus a lie, or facts versus something that's fiction, whatever. It's about what that person actually believed, and they, because when they believe
Right.
it,
Right.
even if it's not the
Because
truth.
that's the truth. That's the truth
Yeah,
to them.
yeah, yes.
Right.
And the difference is, when you talk about staff, was you talking about 85 staff, that one person that this is their truth, they got more influence over, 15 of those 85 than you got. You know what I'm saying? And then you wonder how, people have silos and have many programs or companies up under them, and you don't even know why people moving that way, because you just can't figure out the perspective of somebody who got a lot of influence over the people that's in your building.
And the perception thing is one of the things that I continue, at the corporate level of talking to different organization leaders, in order to keep their staff involved and get them to do, like how we used to do searches and stuff like that. We had what is called, people they do, in the behavior health facilities. It's not necessarily that they're doing searches to catch contraband, but you're doing searches to make sure people are safe.
Right.
And I tell them, I said, this was the biggest thing that I had to learn at one of my jobs is that how do you get people to buy in on where you're trying to go? And I was explaining to one of the CEOs of the hospital. I said, "Man, look, a lot of times we think people understand, and they really don't."
Yeah, yeah.
And we had this thing at this one facility where we would do things and do employee appreciation, and everybody was buying into the employee appreciation, but the kitchen staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here like, man, these are the sweetest women in the world. They talk. What is going on? Why are they not participating in these activities? So I said, you know what? Let me go talk to them. Let me see what's going on one on one. So it's 5 kitchen staff, and I go and I talk with all of them. I told them I like to talk with them before they all leave, and so I go in there and we start having a conversation. I said, hey y'all, I know that we do a lot of these employee appreciation activities, and y'all don't participate. And the smallest one had the best answer. She said, Mr. Wood, if you worked in the kitchen all day, would you want some more food to eat
You're
for
right.
appreciation? And I said, well, talk about me. But I said, she said, every employee appreciation is food somewhere. She
Yeah,
said, I'm not saying the food is not good. She said, yeah, y'all got some good stuff, but when we come in there, we just got through cooking all day.
yeah,
Food is not exciting to us. We want other activities. So that's when I said, you know what? Let's start a committee and let's put a little of everybody, from leadership, from the kitchen to the custodial staff, and that's where I learned that everybody plays a part because
every
if anybody that you leave out, you're not gonna have that buy-in.
you're
Just
not.
like you said about that little organization within the organization.
Yeah,
What happened? There was a little organization that said, "Hey, I don't want to be a part of it."
yeah.
But when they start coming with ideas and other things, it really made everybody always go back to this thing worthy of the organization, and that's why a lot of things that goes on. That's how the raw approach came about. I feel that from research, people, no matter what goes on, people want to feel respected
Yeah,
when they come to work. We got so much stuff that's going on day in, day out, like you said, before you walk through them doors. Last thing you want to hear is somebody trying to tear you down.
yeah,
Even though we might have different ideology, respect that person first.
yeah.
That's number one. Number two, what we sit here been talking about for the last 45 minutes is all about appreciation. How
Mm-hmm.
do you appreciate these people? And at the end of the day, you want to give them respect so they can give respect to you, and then you appreciate them, and they're gonna appreciate you because what it does is open people's minds on what the expectation, what the goal is at the end. And then, as I said, the W is about worthy. Just how many people really want to feel worthy of that organization, man?
Yeah,
If I'm going to be here 8 to 16 hours, I want to feel like I got something to do
yeah.
with the challenges and the movement of this organization. And I think those are very important pieces right there.
They are. They are.
All right, let's go ahead with the broken window. We're going to wrap it up.
We're gonna talk about the broken window, man.
Let's talk about the broken
I used to always talk about the broken window and the way that it was presented to me. I think this was a supervisor I had that was from I think he was from Pennsylvania, man, a good guy, and he talked about the broken window theory. And forgive me if I'm quoting it wrong, but I think it came out of New York, and it was something that was started by law enforcement, and it was their way to crack down on crime, right? So
window.
just say some kids hanging outside on the corner talking, right? They wanted to cut down on crime, right? But those kids standing on the corner, they not committing no crime. But the way that the police department thought was that those kids that are standing on the corner, they eventually are gonna start selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? Then the which is and you talk about the crime, the level of crime just keeps going up. Then those drug sales gonna end up leading to assaults. You know what I'm saying? Then those assaults are gonna end up leading to murder, right? So what they did, they call it the broken window theory. They treated low level crime like high level crime. They looked at somebody loitering, you might as well hit it with a hard fist, just like it's murder, right? Which was a negative reason on how they was doing it, and they was calling themselves cracking down on crime, and they was, again, enforcing very strict policing practices on things that really want high level crimes. The way that it was taught to me, going back to organization, was, man, we got to look at like everything in our facility. We got to look at it from the broken window aspect. So like something as small as a piece of paper on the ground,
Yeah.
right? You know how I
Yeah.
am, and
You
people
always
people
get
probably be like, man, you making a fuss out of this small piece of paper, but like going using that broken window theory, that one piece of paper on the ground, if you ignore that, that's gonna lead to somebody else dropping another piece of paper on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and then next thing you know, that's gonna lead to that chair. Let's talk about that conference room that we talked about, that we upgraded. A
right.
broken leg that's on that chair. If you don't fix that broken leg on that chair, next thing you know, it's gonna be another broken leg, and it just continues and continues. And within a blink of an eye, you will see a whole environment that is no longer inviting and comfortable, and you'd be like, when did that happen, and how did it happen? And that's where we started, like, really, or I really started pushing this whole broken window theory. When you see a broken window, you have to fix it immediately. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's was a man, especially with the type of work that we did, or that I currently do, man. Like, when you have employees, and when you talking about environments, things are gonna break. People are not going. Everybody not gonna follow rules. We talked about let's use the coffee machine, the Keurig machine. Which, why you wasn't a big fan of the Keurig machine, because you didn't drink coffee, and you didn't understand why the hell I got to keep cleaning up behind these people. You know what I'm saying? But if if you left, one coffee pot out, it's gonna turn to two. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna turn to three, and ultimately, what's gonna happen? We're gonna take the coffee machine away, and the coffee machine is not the problem, because the coffee machine is actually making employees want to come to work, and they making them feel appreciated. It's the broken window. It's the not cleaning up the one pod, or wiping behind yourself, or somebody
Yeah.
washing the pot. You know what I'm saying? And it's about addressing those things in real time. And again, I know a lot of people don't understand it, because they're like, man, you're making a big deal about a one coffee pot. But again, if you don't make a big deal about that one coffee pot, it eventually, you're gonna have a broken Keurig machine, and we're gonna remove the Keurig machine, and nobody's gonna be happy.
And then, with that concept, I had a lot of people that worked at that time that did not understand it. So I had to, you know what? Let's go with the relationship aspect.
Right.
In a relationship, if you was in a situation like this, or if it's something else that's going on in that house, you don't address it. What goes on? They're
Yep.
like, well, it's gonna get bigger because I'm ignoring it. I
Yep.
said that's the same thing here. It's no different.
Same
If you
concept.
see an issue and you ignoring it, it's not just gonna walk away and stop. I said, think about a leaking roof. The roof is not gonna stop leaking just because it's not raining.
Yeah.
It might
Yeah.
have water just been sitting there and it might still leak. But what's going to happen is if it starts back raining again, it's going to start back leaking even more because the hole is going to get bigger. And what I like with that whole concept is that when you start having people, kids, adults, that really buy into that understanding of what actually can come out of it. I mean, you know how it was when we took over the detention center. Man, it looked like Cabrini Green.
Woo. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Cabrini Green. But
Yeah.
once we finally got everything approved, no matter how it happened, once we finally got everything approved for the place to get painted, man, the kids started to be
Change.
like, hey, man, don't write on that wall, man.
Yeah.
Don't do it. We got to paint that if you do that. And that's the piece that goes in, is that goes back to that ownership.
Yeah.
Everybody, no matter what you do, whether it's a patient, and that, because I deal with patients at the hospital, whether it's a patient at the hospital, whether it's someone that's in corrections, or whatever it is, whether it's a group home, whether it's a residential setting, whatever it is, everybody wants to feel a part and appreciated at that moment in time.
Yep.
And some people call it the golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. And I take it back to up one level. I like to always upgrade stuff. Is my upgrade is no, do unto others as they want done unto them.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
sometimes the way you want it to be done is not how they want
It's
it to be
not
done. You know what I'm saying?
facts. Big facts. Big facts. And a lot of times, again, that's where that perception that you said, and you thinking in your head, man, I do this, I do this, I do this. Why is this person
Right.
not pleased or happy or not producing? Because you're doing what you want done, not taking the time to figure out what they really want. Yeah.
All right, y'all. If y'all have any questions, concerns, comments, leave them. I will get with you all about our next time that we will go live, and as well send us comments, send us anything, or even topics that you want to discuss, or even some answers that you are looking for. We got you. Also, be mindful. I have had a lot of people that ask for some one-on-one counseling techniques and stuff that they can be done into an organization perspective. Coming soon, I'm going to have an opportunity for you to book appointments. It'll be 30-minute appointments, and we will go from there. I want to be able to offer, along with Mr. Bratcher, to give you what you need in order to help you move yourself as an employee, or move yourself as an organizational leader, or do whatever it takes to bring everybody together as one. That's the goal, as one. So, as always, that's Antonio Bratcher. I'm Dr. Woods, and you have just been hit with the raw approach. I'll let you know.
All right, well, appreciate it, man.